Australians already struggling with the cost of living should brace for a sharp increase in energy bills. The federal budget has warned electricity prices are tipped to rise by 50% over the next 2 years. Joining me now live is Tristan Edis, energy, carbon markets and technology analyst at Green Energy Markets. Tristan, thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, can you break it down for us? How harmful will this be, not just for households, but for businesses?
Look, I think the key issue is renters or low-income consumers and manufacturers. They're the two that for which this matters the most. Electricity for most other sectors of the economy represents around 3% of total expenditure. It's not the most important issue for them, but for heavy manufacturing and low-income consumers, this is a serious issue.
So those that are more vulnerable, clearly, is there a quick fix to bring down prices in your view?
There are some quick fixes, but they do come with potential negative consequences. So the most obvious, which the government has started hinting at, is that they impose price caps on the major gas producers and force them to divert supply that they would otherwise export to countries overseas to supply the Australian market and to supply that at a fixed price cap that would be well below the international price, which is going to be it's already extraordinarily high, and it's going to be even higher over Europe's winter.
The government has said that it is considering further steps to bring down energy costs, and I believe there's a meeting of national energy ministers today. What interventions are needed?
Look, I think the front of mind issue for everyone will be applying price caps to the gas producers. But there's actually a more important long-term fundamental solution that will help the economy, which is actually that our housing stock, so particularly that is rented out by landlords, has appalling levels of energy efficiency. So the average Victorian home uses more gas to heat it than the average home in the UK or in Holland. That's how inefficient they are. And in fact, more people die of cold in Australia than they do in Sweden because our houses are so appallingly insulated. So if we wanted to permanently make a difference and substantially reduce vulnerable consumers' household bills, what we need to do is require landlords to do upgrades of the energy efficiency of their households that they own. And really, this wouldn't cost a large amount of money. It would cost somewhere in the order of $10,000 perhaps per rental property, but would save those renters somewhere in the realm of $1,500 possibly a year. And importantly, less people would die from the cold, but also their energy bills would be slashed. And this would be a permanent saving for the Australian economy, and it won't upset our trading partners in Japan and Korea that rely on international gas. And it can be done quite affordably, and the government already has a loan program through the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. They could loan the money to landlords to do these upgrades. So really everyone can win out of this.
What are the barriers preventing a plan like this? Is there a red tape that could get in the way of such an idea?
The issue is politicians' backbones. They've got no backbones. So the real estate industry has lobbied very heavily against any kind of regulation. I don't know why, because real estate agents would lose nothing. You're going to still have the same number of rental properties that they can charge fees on. For some bizarre reason, they feel like any kind of regulation they need to fight against. But when we saw the havoc break out in the electricity market back in late May and June, why was it? It was because people needed to heat their homes, and then demand increased. But if we had half reasonable homes in terms of the quality of the heaters and the insulation in those homes, we wouldn't have seen that spike in demand. And so we would have had lower electricity prices, but also people would need less consumption of gas as well. And that would save them a huge amount of money. For the vulnerable consumers, which are the ones that rent homes, they don't own their homes, but they don't have the power to upgrade those properties. They're owned by landlords. Landlords are the ones that control what heaters are in them, whether the ceiling is insulated, which in most cases it isn't. So this is an affordable solution. It's one that government already has the money in place through the Clean Energy Finance Corporation to support landlords in doing these upgrades. But what it requires is a little bit of political will to stand up to a few people that really represent a small proportion of the population.
I just want to ask you about Victoria. The state government there announced plans to achieve a 95% renewable energy target by 2035. Is that a realistic target?
Well, the private sector is already closing down all the coal-fired power stations that produce the remainder of the electricity. So if they're going to shut them down, what's left to replace it? So you can replace it with gas, which is horribly expensive and volatile, or you can replace it with renewable energy, which is lower cost than gas, and you're not beholden to despots like Vladimir Putin or the Middle East. So I suppose in some respects, Victorian government, but they're claiming it as something they've done, but really they had no choice. It was being thrust upon them by the fact that private sector financiers don't want to be throwing any more money at coal-fired generators.
Tristan Edis, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.